Okay, let's dive right in. We're going to talk about ovarian cysts. And look, for so many people, hearing that word, it's a genuinely worrying moment, right? Your mind just fills with questions. So the big one is, how do doctors actually figure out what's going on?
Really, it all boils down to one single crucial question. Is this thing benign? Harmless? Or is it potentially malignant? The best way to think about it is like a detective story, a mystery playing out inside the body. And in this explainer, we're going to be the detectives. We're going to follow the clues piece by piece and see exactly how doctors crack this case.
So just like any good investigation, you got to start by gathering the initial evidence. And for this mystery, the process kicks off with 3 key steps: a physical exam, a really detailed look with an ultrasound, and, of course, some important blood work.
All right, so the physical exam, that's square one. The doctor's basically looking for some basic but super vital clues about the mass. Like, how big is it? Where exactly is it? Can it move around, or is it kind of stuck in place? Does it hurt when they press on it? These are like the very first breadcrumbs on the trail.
Okay, next up, the ultrasound. This is a huge deal because it's our first real look inside. But here's the cool part. Reading these images isn't just, guesswork. Doctors actually use this really specific set of guidelines called the IOTA rules. You can think of it like learning a whole new visual language, a language specifically for understanding cysts.
And here's where we start to decode that language. It's really interesting how this is laid out. On one side, you've got the B rules. Think B for benign. These are the good signs. Simple stuff, right? Like a single chamber, any solid parts are really small, it's got a smooth shape. But then, on the other side, you have the M rules. M for malignant. And these are the red flags. Things look a lot more complicated here. An irregular solid tumor, maybe some strange fluid in the abdomen, that's called ascites, and really strong blood flow. These visual clues are, absolutely critical to the investigation.
Okay, so we have our visual evidence from the ultrasound. That's a huge piece of the puzzle. Now, the next major clue comes from a blood test, specifically from a tumor marker you've probably heard of, CA-125. And on the surface, it seems like just a simple number. But trust me, its story is way more complex than you'd think.
So what exactly is CA-125? Well, it's a protein, a glycoprotein to be exact, that can be found in your blood. And yeah, its levels are often elevated in women who have certain kinds of ovarian cancer. It really does sound like a pretty straightforward cancer test, doesn't it?
Which, of course, leads to the big question, right? If your CA-125 is high, does that automatically mean it's cancer? It seems logical. But this is the exact moment where our whole detective story takes a huge, unexpected turn.
The answer is a flat-out no. Not always. The truth is way more complicated. CA-125 is what doctors call a non-specific test. And this is an absolutely critical point in our investigation. Because if you rely on this one number alone, you can be seriously, seriously misled.
So why? Why is it so misleading? Well, get this. CA-125 isn't only made by ovarian cells. It's actually produced by cells that line a ton of different body cavities. What does that mean? It means a whole laundry list of other conditions can make the number spike. Things that are totally benign, like endometriosis or fibroids. Even stuff that has nothing to do with gynecology, like pancreatitis or just some general inflammation. It's like a smoke alarm that goes off for burnt toast and a house fire. It's a clue for sure, but it is not the smoking gun.
So, if the ultrasound just gives us clues, and the blood test can be a red herring, how in the world do you get a reliable answer? Well, this is where the genius comes in. This is where it all comes together. Doctors use this incredibly powerful tool called the Risk of Malignancy Index, or RMI. Think of it as the master tool that takes all those individual scattered clues and combines them into one single, powerful score.
And the formula itself looks deceptively simple. It's just RMI equals U times M times the CA-125 value. U is for the ultrasound score, M is for menopausal status, and of course, CA-125 is that number we got from the blood test.
Let's break that down. It's a really logical 3-step process. Step 1, you figure out the ultrasound score, the U. Step 2, you determine the menopausal status score, the M. And then step 3, you just multiply those two scores by the patient's actual CA-125 number. Simple as that.
This table shows you exactly how they get those first two numbers. So for the U score from the ultrasound, you get points based on how many of those suspicious M rule features we talked about earlier. 0 features, you get a 0. 1 feature, a score of 1. 2 or more, you get a 3.
Then for the M-score, menopausal status, it's a 1 for premenopausal women and a 3 for postmenopausal women, just because the risk profile changes.
Okay, so you do the math. U times M times CA125, and you get one final score. And in this whole process, there is one single number that is the key. The magic number, the threshold that changes absolutely everything. And that number is 200.
So what's so special about 200? Well, it's the dividing line. It's incredibly simple. If the final RMI score is less than 200, the cyst is classified as low risk. If the score is 200 or greater, it's classified as high risk. And just like that, this single score gives doctors a much clearer picture and tells them exactly what to do next.
All right, so the main part of our investigation is over. The risk has been assessed. Now we can move on to the final chapter of the story. What happens next? The management plan. And the path forward from here is totally tailored to that RMI score, whether it's low risk or high risk.
Now, for cysts that fall in that low-risk category, there are a few different options on the table. Sometimes, if a cyst is really simple and isn't causing any trouble, the plan is just to watch and wait. Keep an eye on it. For cysts that are a bit more complex or are causing symptoms, surgery might be the answer. That could mean an ovarian cystectomy, where they just take out the cyst itself, or a salpingo-oophorectomy, where they remove the whole ovary and fallopian tube. Draining it is also an option, but yeah, they tend to come back pretty often.
But if that RMI score comes back high, the whole game changes. The approach is completely different. This result triggers a way more intensive assessment. We're talking CT scans, MRIs, and the case gets discussed by a whole multidisciplinary team of specialists. It's all hands on deck to make sure the absolute best and most comprehensive treatment plan is put in place.
So, after this whole journey, what's the big takeaway? What have we learned? It's this: solving the mystery of an ovarian cyst is never, ever about one single magic test. It's about being a good detective. It's a systematic process of gathering all the clues: the physical exam, the ultrasound images, the tricky blood work, the patient's personal history, and then intelligently putting them all together to solve the puzzle.
And this whole process, this idea of piecing together evidence to get to the truth, that's really at the heart of so much of medicine. Which brings me to my final question for you. What other medical mysteries, what other puzzles do you want us to solve together next? Let me know.